great. I'm going to go back into Jupyter Lab. Great, there you go. And so this is Jupyter Lab. Let's open a new notebook. So just click on that. Single click will actually do it. We saw three really simple things last time. We typed expressions like 2 plus 3 and hit Shift Enter, and that would execute that piece of code is what we learned, print out the result of the last line of code, and then open a new cell. We also saw what is probably the second most simple thing that you can do with Python, which is variable assignment. So we said something like A is assigned 5, B is assigned 6, and if you hit Shift Enter, it executed that piece of code. Since the last thing that was executed did not actually have a value that it could print out, it just executed it and didn't print anything else. But you can look at the values of A, there you go, and B, there you go. So we know that that did get executed. The third, perhaps most simple thing that you can do in Python is what we did last time, which is just print. So let's say the sum of A and B is A plus B, right? And what we learned there was the print function takes a series of arguments and prints out the value of each one of those arguments with a space between them. And that's why I didn't put a space there between is and the number, and yet it printed that out with a space. Good. So we're done with three really simple things. Let's keep doing simple things, but this time we'll move on from integers and numeric expressions, and let's look at other kinds of expressions. So an example of an expression that we're going to come across a lot is a Boolean expression, and a Boolean expression is just something that evaluates to something that's treated as true or false, right? Notice I didn't say true or false. I said something is treated as true or false, and that's because in Python you have the notion of something called truthy or falsy, and truthy is any expression that basically evaluates to true or can be treated as true. So let's take an example. You can say A is greater than 5. What would you expect that to be? Well, that's false. So true and false with a capital T and a capital F are the basic Boolean values in Python. So you can say things like A is greater than 5 and B is less than 10, right? So let's look at that and say that's false. Well, the first one is false, so that you know that immediately the result must be false. But you can also check for things like this. You can say or. Now, why did I say truthy or falsy? Because you can actually apply these kinds of Boolean expressions even to things that are not Boolean themselves. So let me do something that may appear weird. So you can say A or B. Now that's weird, and you might be completely puzzled by this. Makes no sense whatsoever, but let me explain what's going on. The OR operator, which is what you're calling, works as follows. It's going to evaluate its arguments from left to right. So the first thing it's going to evaluate is A, and it's going to say, is this thing truthy or falsy? Not true or false, but is it truthy or falsy? And it's going to look at that A, and A is going to get evaluated, and I'm going to tell you in a second why. It's going to get evaluated as truthy. If the first thing of an OR is true, then it really doesn't need to do anything after that. And so it just returns the value of that first expression. Now the question is, why is it returning the value of that first expression? It's doing it correctly. The value of A is in fact 5. We can verify that that's still true. But why did it treat A, or 5, as true? Why did it treat that as truthy? And the answer is that in Python, there are a few things that are treated as false. This is clearly false. False itself is false. But there are some other things that are not what you would expect. And those are treated as false. For example, the number 0 is treated as false. And there are a few other things that we'll get to. So if that expression is not specifically one of the things that is treated as false, in other words, one of the things that are falsy, if it's not falsy, it's taken as truthy. So what really happened here is it evaluated that A, because that's the first operand to, or the first argument passed to OR. It evaluated that and said, that's truthy. Now the way OR operates, the way OR behaves, it says, well, if the first thing is truthy, I'm just going to return that thing. If everything were in fact Boolean, this would behave exactly as you would expect. So for example, if you say truth or false, the thing is, you actually don't care what that second thing is. It could be false, or if I say true or true, I'd still get true. So OR is basically doing the correct thing. It says the moment I find something that is not falsy, in other words, the moment I find something that's truthy, I'm just going to return that value, and that's exactly what you saw. All right, so that's truthiness and falsiness. Let's move on and look at another very useful type of expression. These are string expressions. So the simplest thing you can do is something like, well, let's not use A all the time, but let's use greeting is hello. So you see, all I do is put it within quotes. And if I say greeting, of course, I should say hello. Okay, good. However, I can also do things like greeting is assigned hello. I can use single quotes, right? Single quotes and double quotes are treated pretty much the same way. The only advantage of single quotes is you can embed double quotes within single quotes. So for example, if you want to say hello to the king, right? Greeting. There you go. I can do that. And on the other hand, if I want to embed single quotes, then I can say greeting. Let me just move this up a little bit. Hello to the king, right? If I say greeting, it embeds it. There's another useful form, which is the triple quote. The advantage of the triple quote, and you see, is that when I enter triple quotes, I can put it on a separate line. So that's basically a multi-line string. This is line 1, and this is line 2. Okay, so now when I hit Shift Enter and I type greeting, you see I get this weird kind of representation of it, and what those are just escaped characters. I could have typed this all in one line. I could have said greeting is assigned, let's call this greeting 2, right? Just because I'm going to use these, and I'm going to say \n, which means put a new line. Hello, this is a, and then I'm going to do another line there, new line there, multi-line string, and I'm going to say this is on line 3. Okay, now I hit Shift Enter, and now if I print greeting, well, let me first do greeting 2, and you see it looks like that. It shows you the embedded escape characters. So the backslash says that, hey, the next character I'm going to tell you is really going to tell you how to treat this. Don't actually print out \n, just print out a new line character. And so when we say print greeting 2, what you get is exactly that. You get this thing saying, hello, this is a, and then the backslash that you saw over there has been replaced by a new line. Same thing for print greeting. Enter, this is line 1. And then you see the other one on line 2. All right, there's one particular kind of string which is even more impressive and even more useful, and these are called formatted strings. So remember I told you A is 5, B is 6, and we came up with A plus B as 5 plus 6, right? Okay, what I can do here is I can actually create a string. So I can say print, and I'm just going to create a string now. And what I'm going to do is, instead of doing it the way I did before, I'm going to do it using a single string, which is a formatted string or an F string. You signify an F string by simply saying F before that string, and you say the sum of A and B is, and now you actually want to print the sum of A and B here. So this is what they call an interpolated expression. So all you do is you put in those little squiggly brackets there, those braces, and you type in any expression you want. And what is going to happen is Python is going to take that expression and evaluate it and interpolate the result of that expression into that string. So if you want to print it, that's what you get. In fact, you can use that string in any case. So you can say result, for example, is assigned F. The sum of A and B is A plus B. And I hit Shift Enter. And now if you look at this value of the string result, it's exactly the same thing. And you can actually do some pretty fancy stuff with this. So for example, let me say price is assigned 10.56. All right. And I can say, let me do F, and I can do single or double quotes. The price is price. Okay. Okay. But I can also do interesting things, like I can put formatting codes right within that. And I'm going to type in a format expression, which might seem a little obscure to you right now, but you can look up the documentation and it's actually quite straightforward. And I can give it formatting instructions. So for example, I can say I want 4 decimal places and I want you to treat it as a floating point number. And I hit Shift Enter and you see I've actually got 4 decimal places there. All right, there are a few more things I want to show you about strings, and then we'll go on to do more interesting things with all of these expressions that we've learned. Person is Sam, right? And greeting is hi. And let's say what we want to say is an interpolated string, and I'm going to say greeting to the person. Okay, and I say print say, and you'll say it says hi Sam. Now, if I go in and change that to change my greeting to hello. Okay, so it's hello Sam. All right, so you see what's going on there. I changed the value of greeting, and so when the value of say was updated, it used the most recent value of greeting, which was hello, and that's why when it printed say, it said hello Sam and not hi Sam like we had before. So there's another thing that we could have done to achieve the exact same effect, and that is we could have used the concatenation operator on strings. Let me explain. So instead of doing say is assigned that expression, right? That's one way we could have done it. There's another way we can do it. We can simply say greeting plus space plus person, right? And what is going on here is that the plus operator is not the mathematical plus that we've seen earlier on here. This is plus operating on strings, and the effect of plus on strings is it concatenates them. So when I do that and I say print say, it's going to do exactly the same thing, except that it didn't have that exclamation mark only because in that expression there, we didn't put the exclamation mark. So I could just do that. And you got hello Sam. Right? So concatenation is an operator that operates on strings, and the plus, the way you should think about it is that the plus operator is smart enough to know that its operands, or the arguments that you're calling the plus function with is smart enough to know that you are passing it a string as an input and not a number as an input. So it calls the concatenation operator on strings to implement that rather than the addition operator on numbers. All right, I'm going to stop here, and in the next session, we're going to look at how to define our own functions so that we can use all these expressions that we've learned how to create. I'll see you then.